It's a Mossad Files video extra. I'm Dan Raviv, former CBS correspondent and author or co-author of 6 books about Israeli intelligence, strategy, and diplomacy. Pleased to be speaking with Jason Burke. Jason Burke, you are the international security correspondent for The Guardian, the British-based newspaper, and you are the author of a new book, a sweeping history book. It's called The Revolutionists, the story of the extremists who hijacked the 1970s. In another video item and on my audio podcast, the Mossad Files with Dan Raviv, we will talk about your book. But I have to tap you on current affairs because, Jason, I know you were recently in the Middle East. I saw your Dateline, Jerusalem, in some Guardian coverage recently. I want to ask you about the Gaza war. And I'm sure intelligence agencies everywhere, and surely the Mossad, are trying to figure out if the war is truly over. What is Donald Trump's true intention? What did you pick up in the Middle East? Is the Gaza war over?
Gaza War is frozen. It's now reduced to a kind of low intensity war of attrition. It's still going on effectively, but let's say the main combat phases are over for the moment. That could change. But right now you have a situation where both the major protagonists are relatively content to leave things as they are. So, though that is very unsatisfactory, not least for the 2.3 million people of Gaza, that's where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, understanding that in addition, the war goals set by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have not been met, right? All the hostages were released except for one who's deceased. But Hamas is still armed and holding about half of the Gaza Strip, right?
Right, yeah, about a third probably, maybe a bit more. But I mean, it's unclear exactly where the territory starts and stops. But in terms of what's being held, but the bottom line is absolutely, yeah. I mean, Netanyahu set out to crush Hamas was one of the things he said. It was meant to be a total victory over Hamas. That was always, to an extent, rhetoric, as any military man will tell you, particularly if you're fighting a kind of terrorist, guerrilla, paramilitary ideology that is Hamas. But even given the difficulties of achieving any kind of crushing total victory, so-called, it's fallen pretty far short of that. The current situation is that Israel holds between 53 and maybe 60% of the territory of Gaza, which is a lot, and it is kind of exactly where Israel wants it to be. It provides a massive buffer zone. It's occupied by the IDF. There's almost no population there. It offers control of all the major entry points, including Rafah, which wasn't the case before the conflict. And I know from my sources within the Israeli military that what they've taken in terms of positions are along a pretty defensible line. A lot of it is the high ground in the north of the territory and elsewhere. So that situation works at the moment for Israel. It works for Netanyahu politically, and that's really important because we're going to have elections within a year in Israel. And this is crucial, it kind of works for Hamas too. Hamas have got what they want, which is the population, almost completely under their control, crammed into kind of around a third to a half of the strip, a bit less, about a third, really. Terrible conditions, but conditions that allow Hamas to reassert its authority and to start to rebuild, albeit from a pretty degraded base. So Hamas kind of have what they want, or the best they could hope for in this situation. Netanyahu and the Israelis have a lot. They've got the hostages out. They've got some territory. They've got Hamas bottled up. So, at the moment, it doesn't look like there's a great momentum to shift the current situation in any substantial way.
Jason Burke, you haven't mentioned President Donald Trump. And I don't think it's only because I'm an American that I consider him, of course, a key player in this. Somehow it's his force of personality or the strength of the United States that ended the hot war in October when the war was 2 years old. As I said, all the live hostages released. And the president says there's peace in the Middle East. Well, of course, you're an on-the-ground journalist, Jason Burke. And we know there's not peace in the Middle East. And as you say, the war is frozen. I think Hamas also got that in Trump's plan and his board of peace, there's the Turkish foreign minister and a senior Qatari. And that's some protection that Hamas won't be forced out of existence. I don't know what Trump wants at this point. Do you?
Well, one of the things that we haven't mentioned so far is the whole question of disarmament, which is obviously a critical Israeli demand and one that Hamas are resisting in any real form. And that kind of really suggests the whole problem. I mean, who's going to force Hamas to disarm? Now, and this is where, President Trump's lack of influence in a way is important, because he can make a lot of noise about ending war in the Middle East, and he can possibly knock heads together with the Qataris and the Turks and the Egyptians and the Israelis, all of whom have to listen to him, even if they don't like him. But does he have the attention span? Is he interested? Will he put the time in and the effort in? Can he really align all those various actors in a way that will overcome these really serious practical and political issues on the ground? I'm skeptical. So I think where we are with the war in Gaza right now is probably where we're going to be with it for the foreseeable future.
Thank you so much, Jason Burke. You are the international security correspondent for The Guardian. You were just reporting in the Middle East yet again recently, and you've got a heck of a current project. Your new book, a sweeping history, it's called The Revolutionists, and it's about, frankly, all the events in the world of what we call terrorism and counter-terrorism in the 1970s. And in another conversation, Jason Burke, we'll talk about the revolutionists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Great conversation.
My thanks again to Jason Burke. The title of his new book is The Revolutionists. Just a quick word about my weekly audio podcast, the Mossad Files with Dan Raviv. We talk about Israeli strategy, Middle East events. Every week there's an interesting interview. So look for that audio podcast, the Mossad Files. And also please look for my most recent books, co-authored with Yossi Melman. There's an ebook, very affordable, called Target Iran, telling how the Mossad penetrated Iran and had so many secret agents inside Iran when that war broke out this past June, and our wider history of Israeli intelligence and espionage. It's called Spies Against Armageddon, Inside Israel's Secret Wars. So please look for our books, look for my podcast, and thanks very much.